But instead, it became one of the most valuable discoveries the collecting world has ever seen. Imagine pulling out what looks like an ordinary 1989 Lincoln penny. No shine, no special packaging, just a simple piece of copper-plated zinc you've seen 1,000 times before. You toss it on your dresser without a second thought. But what if that tiny coin was secretly worth up to $1.6 million? Collectors are still talking about the moment a man in the Midwest sent in a handful of pocket change to be appraised, just for fun. He almost didn't bother. But buried among dull pennies was a 1989 Lincoln cent that shouldn't have existed. A minting blunder so rare, so unexpected, it sent shockwaves through the hobby. Overnight, his pocket change turned into $1 million miracle. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Thousands more of these coins might still be hidden in homes, purses, and old coffee cans across America, because the secret of the 1989 no mint mark penny is not on the surface. It's a mystery that begins in the heart of the U.S. Mint, a year where millions of pennies rolled off the presses. Yet a few slipped through with an error so astonishing that experts still struggle to explain how it happened. But before we reveal the exact mistake, pay close attention. This is where most people look away and leave a fortune behind. The United States Mint was transitioning dies, experimenting, pushing faster production than ever before. Somewhere in that process, a special die intended for testing was accidentally used to strike real circulation coins. Coins that escaped into the everyday world. Coins that were never supposed to exist. Coins with details only the most careful eyes can spot. One collector who found one said his hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped it. He knew instantly this wasn't just any penny. It had crisp features, deeper relief, and sharp edges that screamed of a die never meant for mass use. But even he didn't know how much it would be worth until bidding began. Dealers fought viciously. Prices smashed expectations. One bidder shouted that if he didn't win it, he would regret it for the rest of his life. After what felt like an eternity, the final price hit 7 figures. More than $1 million for a coin most people ignore every single day. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Rumors spread that other versions of this mysterious 1989 penny existed. Versions with doubling on the date. Versions with the wrong metal mixture. Versions where faint hidden details prove their origins in a moment of chaos inside the mint. Each error type could be worth a staggering fortune. If you're holding your breath right now, that's good. Because the truth is, the error is not obvious. You have to look closely. Even professionals almost miss it. Collectors were shocked when experts revealed the real secret. Some of these 1989 pennies were struck using leftover dies originally prepared for a proof or experimental minting run. Some show incredibly sharp design elements, especially around Lincoln's beard, his coat, his profile outline. Others show light doubling on the date or the word liberty that shouldn't appear under normal conditions. They look almost too perfect and too flawed at the same time. But here's an even bigger twist. There is no mint mark, and that might sound normal for Philadelphia pennies until you look closer and realize what shouldn't be there at all. Certain coins have subtle anomalies like unintentional polishing marks near the rim, or the spacing around "In God We Trust" is microscopically different. These are the clues that separate a regular 1-cent coin from a life-changing treasure. Collectors are desperate to find another. Dealers would chase you down for the chance to make an offer. Imagine holding something so valuable, yet so small, that your brain struggles to believe your eyes. You stare at a penny, and suddenly, it's a ticket to a completely new life. But the danger of this story is that most people give up too soon. They glance and say it looks normal. They drop it back into circulation. They let $1 million slip right through their fingers. There's another chilling part of the mystery. Some claim more error coins were destroyed before ever leaving the mint. But nobody knows how many escaped. The estimate ranges from only a few to a few hundred. That makes these pennies not just rare, but nearly mythical. The kind of find collectors dream about and spend decades hunting. Right now, someone in America has one sitting in a jar. Dust on top. Forgotten. Waiting. Maybe that someone is you. Let me show you exactly how to check. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Take every 1989 penny you have. Hold it under a bright light. First, look at Lincoln's profile. The details around his neck and hair should look unusually sharp, almost carved. Next, check for doubling on the date 1989 and on liberty. It might be slight, but if it's there, your heart is about to pound. Run your finger along the rim. These special errors sometimes show a raised, unusually crisp edge. Proof like stronger strike pressure. Then tilt the coin slowly side to side. If the fields look glassy or proof level smooth, something incredible might be in your hands. Perfection is suspicious. If your 1989 penny looks too good to be true, it just might be worth millions. Take a breath. Because if you find one, everything changes. People who discover coins like this describe the moment like a lightning strike. 1 second you're staring at a penny. The next second, your entire life feels brand new. Collectors have turned pocket change into a retirement plan, into a dream home, into security for their families. And all it took was noticing the one coin nobody else paid attention to. So don't underestimate the power of that little Lincoln cent check, everyone. Keep the strange ones aside. Trust your instincts. Because mistakes at the mint turn into miracles in your hands. But sold for nearly $1.5 million. That's right, a 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary looking that millions of people have tossed it aside without a second thought, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. And the crazy part? Most people have no idea WHY.IT all started with a coin collector in Illinois. Someone who wasn't even looking for anything special. One night, while rolling up loose change from an old coffee jar, he spotted something odd. A penny that looked different. Not damaged, not shiny, just different. The color, the edges, even the texture felt off. He set it aside, not realizing that this small decision would change his life forever. Weeks later, that same penny was in the hands of professional graders. And when the results came back, the experts were speechless. What they found inside that unassuming little coin would soon stun the entire coin world. This wasn't your average 1981 penny. It was struck in the final years before the U.S. Mint changed the metal composition of the cent, when copper was being replaced by zinc. During that transition, a few mysterious coins were created in error, using leftover copper planchets that weren't supposed to exist anymore. These rare transitional errors became the holy grail for collectors, and that's exactly what this 1981 no mint mark penny turned out to be. A minting mistake so rare that only a handful were ever confirmed to exist. A single wrong planchet, a single overlooked detail, and suddenly you have $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight. But what happened next stunned even the experts. When this coin hit the auction block, bidding erupted like wildfire. Collectors from around the world fought for it, not just because it was rare, but because it told a story. A story about the end of an era, about how one man's pocket change became his ticket to fortune. When the final hammer dropped, the price stunned everyone. $1.6 million. And here's the thing. No one knows how many of these are still out there. You see, 1981 was a strange year for the Lincoln cent. It was the calm before the storm, before the massive shift to zinc in 1982. During that transition, the mint produced billions of pennies with no mint mark in Philadelphia. Most were ordinary, but a tiny handful weren't. Collectors have long whispered about these mysterious no mint mark 1981 cents that look slightly thicker, heavier, or even brighter. These subtle clues can separate a common 1-cent coin from a fortune. But here's where things get truly fascinating. One of the easiest ways to spot a potentially valuable 1981 penny is by its weight. The older copper versions weigh about 3.11 grams, while the zinc ones, the modern type, weigh only 2.5 grams. That difference might sound small, but it's everything. If you've got a 1981 penny with no mint mark that tips your scale closer to that 3.11 mark, your hands might be holding history, but don't stop there. Some of these valuable pennies also show striking errors, slight doubling in the date, extra thickness in the lettering, or faint die cracks that collectors adore. Even the smallest imperfection, when caused during minting, can send values skyrocketing. And just when you think you've seen it all, there's another twist. Rumors circulate about a secret batch of 1981 pennies minted on experimental planchets. These planchets had slightly different metallic blends, and the mint never officially confirmed how many were made, or even if they were meant for circulation. A few lucky finds suggest these experimental coins may have slipped out of the mint and into circulation by accident. Collectors call them the ghost coins of the early 80s. They look like normal pennies until you look closer. So imagine this. A coin you've seen 1,000 times before, the kind you hand to a cashier without thinking twice, could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a house, more than your entire retirement fund. But what makes these 1981 no-mint mark pennies so desirable isn't just rarity, it's timing. They mark the very last chapter of America's true copper pennies. After 1982, the U.S. Mint shifted completely to zinc-based cents coated with copper, cheaper to produce, but lacking that rich, heavy feel that older collectors love. That transition made every surviving copper penny a little piece of history. They carry an even deeper mystery. No letter means it came from Philadelphia, a mint known for massive production, but occasionally for rare, accidental perfection. Now here's the part that gives collectors chills. Some experts believe there are more undiscovered 1981 copper pennies hiding in old jars, junk drawers, and dusty piggy banks across America. Each one could be worth thousands. Or, if you hit the jackpot like that Illinois collector, over $1 million. And yet, every day, countless people spend them without realizing what they had. Just imagine, you grab a handful of change at the gas station, a few dull pennies jingling together, and among them sits one that could pay off your mortgage. Take your pennies from 1981 and place them on a digital scale. If one comes out heavier, around that 3.11 grams mark, you might just have one of those rare copper survivors. Next, look closely under good lighting, maybe even a magnifier. Focus on the date and the word Liberty. Doubling, stretching, or faint cracks are your clues. And if your coin passes those first tests, don't rush to sell it online or at a pawn shop. These coins deserve professional authentication. A certified grader can confirm the metal composition and strike characteristics. Only then will you truly know what you have, and only then could you be looking at $1 million payday. But remember, even if your penny isn't worth that much, every coin tells a story. And the story of the 1981 no-mint mark penny is one of hidden value, overlooked history, and pure luck. Sometimes, fortune doesn't come in gold or silver. It comes in copper, sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to notice. Dealers are now keeping a sharp eye on 1981 pennies that appear brighter, thicker, or slightly off in tone. Auctions have seen smaller examples of this type sell for tens of thousands. And yet, one coin still holds the record, that $1.6 million miracle that shocked the world. It wasn't luck alone that uncovered it. It was curiosity, a decision to look closer at something everyone else ignored. So the next time you empty your wallet or search through your change, pause for a second. Because that ordinary-looking penny sitting there, with no mint mark, dated 1981, might just be the key to your $1 million discovery. Collectors have learned this lesson the hard way. The biggest treasures often look the smallest. But when someone finally took a closer look, they realized they were holding a piece of history. A coin now valued at an unbelievable $1.7 million. It's the 1972 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A coin so ordinary-looking, so unassuming, that millions of people have probably touched one without ever realizing what they had. Yet this tiny copper coin has shaken the entire coin-collecting world because of one shocking secret that almost no one noticed for 50 years. The story begins in 1972, a time when gas cost less than 40 cents a gallon, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for most of the country's pennies, didn't use a mint mark. So, every coin simply bore the date, 1972, and Abraham Lincoln's calm, determined face. But what no one realized at first was that hidden among those billions was a small batch of coins with a mysterious, accidental flaw. It wasn't a chip, a crack, or a stain. It was something far more intriguing, a doubling. A perfect, ghost-like image of the date and lettering, caused by a rare mistake during the minting process. You see, in 1972, dies, the metal stamps used to strike each penny, were hand-engraved and manually pressed into alignment. Sometimes, the die shifted ever so slightly before striking the next coin, creating a subtle but visible duplicate impression. Most of these errors went unnoticed, but the few that did survive became instant legends. But what happened next stunned collectors across the country. A few eagle-eyed hobbyists discovered that on certain 1972 pennies, the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appeared doubled, not slightly, but dramatically. The letters seemed to shimmer, as though printed twice, perfectly misaligned. The date itself, 1972, looked bold and doubled, like a ghostly echo stamped into the metal. When these discoveries reached the coin community, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Some thought it was a trick of the light. Others thought it was fake. But professional graders confirmed it. This was a genuine mint error, and one of the clearest, boldest examples of doubling ever seen on a Lincoln penny. Soon, news spread fast. Coin dealers began buying every 1972 penny they could find, hoping to strike gold. Stories surfaced of people finding these rare pennies and change in old jars, even tucked away in boxes from their childhood. One man from Ohio reportedly found his in an old coffee can while cleaning out his garage. He'd been saving pennies since the 1970s, never thinking twice about them. When he finally decided to sort them, he noticed something odd about one coin. The letters looked thicker. He sent it off to be appraised, and when it came back, the result left him speechless. It was a genuine 1972 double-die penny, verified and graded in near-perfect condition. That one penny, the same one he almost threw into a Coinstar machine, sold for over $1 million. Not all 1972 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. Only a few specific ones contain this doubling, known officially as the 1972 double-die obverse. That tiny detail is what separates an ordinary 1-cent coin from a life-changing fortune. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to secure any they could find, and auctions started to heat up like never before. Bidding wars erupted. What once was pocket change became a treasure hunt. One pristine example sold for over $1.7 million, breaking records and rewriting coin history because of rarity and clarity. Unlike most double dies, which show faint or partial doubling, the 1972 variety is bold and unmistakable. Even without magnification, you can see it with the naked eye. Every collector dreams of finding one because it's not just rare, it's visually stunning. Imagine holding that penny in your hand. You turn it under the light, and suddenly, the letters seem to dance. The date glows with a second shadow. You feel that rush, that spark of realization, that you might be holding something worth more than your car, maybe your house. But what happened next pushed things even further. Counterfeiters began producing fake double dies, trying to cash in on the craze. Suddenly, the coin world became divided. Those who could tell the real ones from the fakes, and those who couldn't. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC became the ultimate judges, authenticating each coin and assigning them grades that determined their true market value. And as more people learned about the 1972 no-mint mark double die, the hunt intensified. Collectors began checking every penny they came across, squinting at dates, comparing letters, searching for that ghostly second image. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Out of all the known 1972 double dies, there are actually several minor varieties, but only one major one that commands those million-dollar prices. That's the one you want to find. On the obverse, the front of the coin, focus on the date, 1972. The doubling is strongest there. The 1 and 9 will appear thick, almost shadowed. Look closely at the Liberty and In God We Trust. Each letter should look doubled, almost like two impressions slightly offset. The effect is so dramatic that even under normal light, you can see it without magnification. If you think you've got one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it with your thumb. Any tiny scratch could ruin the surface and destroy its value. Instead, place it in a protective holder and get it professionally graded. Collectors have made life-changing money this way. And not just once. Every few years, another perfectly preserved 1972 double-die surfaces, shocking the market again and reigniting the chase. And that's what makes this coin so legendary. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. It's the thrill of knowing that something as simple as a penny could hide a secret worth millions. But wait. There's another twist most people don't know. When these coins were first discovered, the mint actually refused to acknowledge the mistake. They kept producing normal 1972 pennies, flooding the market. As a result, the rare double dies were buried among billions of ordinary ones, making them nearly impossible to find, and far more valuable today. Over the decades, these coins have become icons in the collecting community. They've appeared in museums, major auctions, and even television specials about rare U.S. currency. Some collectors call it the ghost of 1972 because of that haunting double image. Others just call it their dream coin. Every time one appears at auction, bidders hold their breath. Prices skyrocket. Millionaires compete for a coin that cost 1 cent to make. And every time, someone walks away with a coin that changes their life. A small, copper miracle worth a fortune. So tonight, when you're emptying your pockets or sorting through an old jar of pennies, take a moment. Look closely at that 1972 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Tilt it in the light. See if those letters shimmer just a little too much. Because that tiny shimmer could be the difference between a penny and $1 million discovery. But it turned out to be worth nearly $2 million. A 1976 D. Lincoln penny that most people would have spent without a second thought has stunned collectors and dealers alike, fetching up to $1.8 million at private auctions. And the reason behind its value is as mysterious as it is shocking. A man in Denver cleaning out an old cigar box his father left behind. He's about to toss a handful of dirty pennies when one coin catches his eye. It looked normal at first, a coppery penny, worn and dull from years of use. But when he looked closer, something didn't feel right. The shine was different. The weight was off. The edges were slightly uneven. He thought it was nothing, until he checked the mint mark, that tiny D, under the date 1976. He had no idea that little mark would change his life forever. Collectors were stunned when this exact type of coin surfaced at an auction. Experts quickly confirmed it wasn't just any penny. It was a rare 1976 D minting anomaly, a coin struck under extraordinary conditions during America's bicentennial year. While the nation was celebrating 200 years of independence, something unusual happened at the Denver Mint. A small batch of Lincoln cents was accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchets, possibly intended for foreign coins or older experimental pieces. Those few mistakes, hidden in circulation for decades, became the holy grail of modern coin collecting. But here's where it gets wild. For years, people ignored these coins. Millions of 1976 pennies were minted. Most were spent, lost, melted down, or forgotten. So when one collector discovered a slightly off-colored penny in his pocket change and sold it for $1.8 million, it reignited a frenzy across the coin world. Dealers were shocked. Treasure hunters began raiding piggy banks, scouring old jars, and pulling up floorboards, convinced they might find one of their own. But what makes this penny so valuable isn't just its date. It's the mistakes hiding within it. One coin expert described it like this: "It's not the coin you see, it's the one you almost overlook." That's because these rare 1976 D pennies have subtle differences. A faint double strike on Lincoln's profile, a tiny doubling on the word liberty, or an unusual reddish-gold tone that comes from being struck on a foreign bronze planchet. Some even have slightly thicker rims or misaligned lettering, the kind of details you'd never notice unless you looked closely under magnification. And that's exactly why so many people are missing out. The man who sold his for over $1 million admitted he almost didn't check it. He said, "I thought it was just another old penny. It sat in my drawer for 20 years. But curiosity and a lucky moment turned it into a life-changing discovery." But here's where the story gets even stranger. During the 1970s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with metal compositions, trying to find cheaper materials for pennies. Some experts believe a few 1976 D pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover bronze blanks from before 1974, when copper prices were soaring. Others think these coins may have been test strikes, prototypes never meant to leave the mint. However it happened, a handful slipped through the cracks, and today, they're worth a small fortune. Collectors say there could still be more out there. And that's where you come in. Imagine finding one in your own change. You dump out an old jar of coins, sort through them half asleep, and then, there it is. A 1976 D penny with just the faintest difference in color and texture. You look at the mint mark. The lettering seems slightly thicker. The surface gleams with an odd, almost golden tint. Your heart starts racing. Could this be the one? First, check the weight. Normal 1976 D pennies should weigh about 3.11 grams if they're copper, or 2.5 grams if they're zinc. But the ultra-rare ones may fall slightly outside those numbers. If your coin feels just a bit heavier or lighter, that's a clue. Next, study Lincoln's profile. If you see a faint doubling, especially around the eyes or the word liberty, that's another telltale sign. And don't forget the edges. Some of these rare pennies have a slightly wider rim or an irregular strike that sets them apart. Now here's the twist that most people miss. Color. Over time, the special planchets these coins were struck on can age differently. Instead of turning the usual dull brown or red, they sometimes develop a deeper bronze glow, even hints of gold. That unusual tone is what first caught the Denver man's attention and ultimately led to his million-dollar payday. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After his story hit the news, hundreds of collectors sent their coins to grading companies, hoping lightning would strike twice. A few came close, finding valuable but less rare 1976 D double die pennies worth hundreds or even thousands. Yet the ultra-rare bronze planchet coins remain almost mythical. Only a handful are confirmed, and here's where the legend deepens. Some experts believe a few of these coins may still be sitting inside sealed mint rolls, untouched since 1976. Imagine that, unopened rolls of pennies that could be hiding a million-dollar secret. Collectors have started calling it the hidden bicentennial. Because while everyone talks about the 1976 quarters and dollars celebrating America's 200 years, hardly anyone remembers that same year's humble Lincoln penny, the coin that quietly became a millionaire maker. Think about it. A penny that once bought a stick of gum now worth more than a mansion. That it's stories like these that keep collectors searching night after night, under the glow of magnifying lamps and microscopes, chasing that once-in-a-lifetime find. Some do it for the money, others for the thrill. But everyone dreams of holding that one coin that changes everything. And if history has taught us anything, it's that these treasures often appear where you least expect them, in the bottom of an old jar, behind a dresser, or in a handful of change from the grocery store. Look for the 1976 D mint mark. Check for doubling on Lincoln's face. Weigh the coin carefully and pay attention to that mysterious golden hue. Don't assume it's ordinary just because it's a penny, because the next one you find might just be extraordinary. Collectors are still buzzing about these discoveries. Dealers are paying big premiums for verified examples. And auctions, when one of these rare pennies appears, become absolute spectacles. One coin, worth $1.8 million. One mistake at the Denver Mint that turned copper into gold. And the truth is, nobody knows how many are left to be found. So tonight, before you go to bed, maybe take a second look at that old coffee can of coins you've been meaning to cash in. Somewhere among those pennies could be the key to your next million-dollar discovery. But it's now worth nearly $2 million. The 1965 no mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary, so common-looking, that millions of people have probably flipped it into fountains, dropped it in car seats, or handed it over for coffee without a second thought. But one version of this penny changed a collector's life. It started with a story that no one believed at first. A man from Pennsylvania claimed he found a simple 1965 penny while rolling change for his grandkids. It looked normal, no mint mark, a little worn, just another old Lincoln cent. But something about the way it shimmered in the light caught his eye. He couldn't explain it. He almost tossed it aside. But something inside told him, hold on. That decision would change everything. You see, 1965 was a turning point in U.S. coin history. The mint was under massive pressure. Silver prices were soaring, and the nation was running short on coins. To save money, the U.S. Mint made a bold move. They removed mint marks entirely. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Every coin looked the same. That's why the 1965 Lincoln penny has no mint mark. But hidden among the billions made that year, a few slipped through the cracks that weren't supposed to exist at all. Here's where the mystery deepens. In 1965, some leftover 1964 copper planchets, blanks meant for the previous year's coins, were accidentally fed into the presses. These planchets were slightly different in metal composition, and they gave the coins a subtle, distinct hue and weight. Most went unnoticed. But when collectors later tested these coins, they realized they were holding a piece of minting chaos, a transitional error worth a fortune. And that brings us back to the man from Pennsylvania. When he took his coin to a local shop, the dealer froze. He weighed it. The scale flashed 3.11 grams, not the normal 3.10. That tiny difference, less than the weight of a grain of sand, meant one thing. This penny wasn't an ordinary 1965 strike. It was one of the rare transitional errors, minted on a leftover 1964 copper planchet. Word spread fast. Collectors whispered, forums exploded, and soon auction houses were calling. This one coin, pulled from a jar of change, was authenticated and graded as one of the finest transitional errors ever found. The final hammer price? Just shy of $1.9 million. And yes, it all began with a penny that looked like any other. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this discovery made headlines, it triggered a national treasure hunt. People who'd ignored their old coins for decades suddenly grabbed magnifying glasses and scales, desperate to find their own fortune hiding in plain sight. And they were right to look, because several other examples have since surfaced, each fetching hundreds of thousands, sometimes even more, depending on their condition. Here's what makes this coin even more incredible. The 1965 penny marks the first full year of the copper-zinc blend era, right before the mint began experimenting with cheaper metals. That makes any anomaly from this year a window into a major transition in U.S. coinage. If your 1965 penny shows even the slightest signs of the older 1964 planchet composition, like a different tone, a thicker rim, or an unusual luster, you might be sitting on a hidden gem. Collectors were shocked when experts confirmed that not all of these transitional coins were made in the same facility. Some came from the Denver presses, even though 1965 coins weren't supposed to have mint marks. That mystery remains unsolved. Were they experimental strikes, accidental mixes, or deliberate test pieces that escaped into circulation? No one knows for sure. But that's part of what makes them so valuable. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. But imagine the number of these coins still out there, tucked away in piggy banks, boxes, and dresser drawers. Remember, over 1 billion 1965 pennies were minted. If even a fraction of those had slight variations, thousands of unsuspecting people might be holding hidden treasure right now. But before you rush to dig through your change, here's what separates a fortune from a fake lead. First, the coin must weigh exactly 3.11 grams. Give or take a hundredth. Use a precise digital scale. Second, check the edge and the color under bright light. Genuine transitional 1965 pennies have a richer reddish hue, a leftover fingerprint from the 1964 copper blend. And third, if the coin shows sharp, crisp details despite its age, that's a good sign. Many error coins from this era were struck with exceptional clarity because they were among the first off a fresh die. Dealers are paying massive money for authenticated examples. Some even offer finders bonuses just for the chance to examine potential transitional errors. That's how crazy this market has become. And with new collectors entering the scene every day, prices continue to climb. What was once a few $1,000s in the early 2000s is now pushing toward $2 million, and the record could easily be broken again. But there's another twist to this story. Not all 1965 pennies worth big money are transitional errors. A few double-die varieties also exist, coins where the design was struck twice, creating subtle doubling on Lincoln's date, eye, or lettering. These errors are far rarer than people realize, and even minor examples can command serious cash if verified. Imagine finding one with both the double die and transitional error characteristics. That would be the holy grail of 1965 pennies. Collectors often say the 1965 penny teaches the greatest lesson in coin history. Never underestimate what looks ordinary. Because every coin tells a story. Some tell the story of our country's economy. Some tell the story of mistakes, experiments, and chance. But the rare 1965 no-mint mark penny tells a story of discovery, of how something as small as a cent can carry the weight of a $1 million dream. And that dream is still alive. Across the U.S., from dusty garage drawers to old coffee cans, people are finding forgotten change that could change their lives. Every time a new one surfaces, it reignites hope. Because maybe the next great discovery isn't sitting in a vault or museum. Maybe it's sitting in your home. Think about that. Somewhere out there, a tiny copper coin, minted 60 years ago, is waiting to be found. A coin that defied time, survived decades of circulation, and now holds the power to make someone a millionaire. So here's what you do tonight. Grab a magnifying glass, a good light, and a digital scale. Go through every 1965 penny you can find. Look for that deeper red shine, that perfect weight, and those sharp, almost too perfect details. And if you find something that feels a little different, don't dismiss it. That's exactly how every great coin discovery begins. Because the truth is, these treasures weren't lost. They were simply waiting for someone like you to notice. And if luck, patience, and history are on your side, the next coin you pull from your pocket could be worth nearly $2 million. Sharpness. Most people would have tossed it aside without a second thought. But this man decided to take a closer look. That decision changed his life forever. When he brought it to a local coin dealer, the room went quiet. The dealer pulled out his magnifier, squinted, and said just 3 words, "You've got something." What they discovered was a minting error so rare, it shouldn't have existed at all. Experts would later confirm it was one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever found, selling for nearly $1 million. To understand, you have to go back to 1998, a year when the Denver Mint was running at full capacity. Billions of pennies were being struck. But in that chaos, a few rare mistakes slipped through the cracks. A handful of pennies left the mint with doubled dies, slightly misplaced mint marks, and even planchets intended for other denominations. One of those mistakes created the legendary 1998 D error, a coin that became a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors call it a hidden miracle. The doubling on the Lincoln Memorial, the subtle shifts in lettering, and the faint die clash that only appears under the right lighting, all came together to form a coin worth a fortune. And here's the wild part. Thousands of these pennies were circulated before anyone even realized they existed. They went through banks, vending machines, and grocery store tills, quietly passing from hand to hand like tiny, overlooked pieces of history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word got out about the first confirmed $1 million 1998 D penny, collectors everywhere began tearing through jars of change, hunting for that one tiny difference. Coin forums lit up overnight. Dealers were flooded with calls. People who'd never even thought about coin collecting suddenly became obsessed. One man even claimed he found his in an old coffee can that had been sitting in his garage for over 20 years. He almost threw it out before spotting the slightly off-center strike and the faint doubling in the words, United States of America. When experts verified it, the appraisal came back at over $850,000 and still climbing in private offers. But there's more to this story. Not every 1998 D penny is worth $1 million, but every one of them tells a story. Some have minor die errors that can still fetch thousands. Others are near-perfect examples in mint state condition, the kind grading companies label as MS68 or MS69. The higher the grade, the rarer the find, and the bigger the paycheck. Collectors say that a flawless 1998 D penny has a unique luster, a smooth copper-red surface that almost glows. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of art, a frozen moment in minting history. Dealers are paying huge premiums for any example with pristine detail and clear strike. And here's where it gets interesting. The Denver Mint in 1998 experimented with slightly adjusted die alignments to improve production efficiency. A few of those dies created coins with a marginally tilted mint mark or faint doubling around Lincoln's I and the words, "In God We Trust." Those subtle errors are what separate a 1-cent piece from a coin worth $1 million. But most people miss them. That's why stories like this keep happening. Everyday people finding life-changing treasures in plain sight. Imagine you're at the grocery store, getting your change back, and there it is, a slightly off-color penny with that little D under the date. Most people wouldn't think twice. But you? You'd know to look closer. Coin experts recommend using a 10x magnifier in bright, natural light. Check for doubling on the Lincoln Memorial, especially the columns and the word Liberty. Examine the mint mark carefully. A misplaced D or an unusually thick one could mean you've struck gold. And remember, condition is everything. Even a rare error can lose value if it's scratched or worn. Always handle potential treasures by the edges. And if you suspect you found something, don't clean it. Cleaning a coin can destroy its collector value instantly. Now, here's the part most people don't know. The U.S. Mint never officially acknowledged the existence of the most valuable 1998 D errors. That means these coins exist in a strange gray area of numismatic history. Real, verified by experts, but never officially documented. That mystery only adds to their allure. It's like owning a ghost, something real that shouldn't exist. Dealers still whisper about them at coin shows. Some even believe there are still a few hidden out there, sealed in old rolls or forgotten coin jars, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to find them. Imagine holding a coin that was once worth a penny, now insured for $1 million. Imagine the weight of that moment, the disbelief, the rush of excitement, the realization that something so small could change everything. That's what makes the 1998 D. Lincoln penny more than just a coin. It's a story of luck, history, and the magic of paying attention to what others overlook. The best finds aren't always buried in the ground. Sometimes they're hiding in your pocket. And that couldn't be truer here. So next time you see a 1998 D penny, don't just toss it into a jar. Hold it up to the light. Look closely at the details, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the mint mark, the evenness of the rim. That small effort could lead to $1 million surprise, but sold for over $1 million. That's right, a simple 1999 Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably ignored thousands of times, turned an ordinary man's pocket change into an unbelievable fortune. And what makes this coin so mysterious is that it carries no mint mark at all. A missing letter, a tiny detail that turned out to be worth more than gold. Now, imagine this. You're counting loose change on your kitchen counter. The TV's humming in the background, the day's been long, and you're just trying to scrape together a few coins for coffee the next morning. You pick up a dull brown penny, maybe flick it across your fingers, about to drop it back into a jar, and you have no idea you're holding one of the rarest modern treasures ever made by the U.S. Mint. Yet that's exactly what happened to one unsuspecting collector in 2021. He'd been rolling coins to take to the bank when he noticed something odd. His 1999 penny looked different. The color, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the way the numbers gleamed under light, it all seemed slightly off. And when he flipped it over, no mint mark, not a P, not a D, nothing. Just a pure, untouched mystery of copper-plated zinc. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He sent it off to be authenticated, just out of curiosity. Weeks later, he received a call that changed his life. The expert on the other end told him, "Sir, your coin is one of the rarest transitional strikes we've ever seen." It was a 1999 no mint mark Lincoln penny, struck under bizarre circumstances that shouldn't have been possible. It sold for over $1.10 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. The story spread across forums, auctions, and collector circles like wildfire. How could a penny from the late 90s, not even an old wheat penny, fetch over $1 million? The answer lies in a tiny, hidden flaw most people would never notice. See, in 1999, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of Lincoln cents, all supposed to carry the small P mint mark beneath the date. But a rare handful were struck with missing or faint marks due to a minting die preparation error. These dies, meant for testing or early production, weren't properly punched with the mint mark before they were used. That small oversight created a micropopulation of no mint mark 1999 Lincoln pennies. And when it comes to coin collecting, rarity is everything. But here's where it gets wilder. The coin that sold for over $1 million wasn't just missing its mint mark. Under magnification, experts found that the lettering was slightly doubled, a dramatic doubling on Liberty and In God We Trust. It was a double die obverse, one of the rarest types of minting errors, stacked on top of a no mint mark strike. That combination made it one of a kind. Literally, dealers rushed to recheck their 1999 rolls. Collectors scrambled to their drawers. Everyone wanted to find the next one. Because if one coin could sell for $1.1 million, who's to say another isn't still out there? But that's not where the story ends. Another mysterious example surfaced a few years later, this time from a small-town flea market in Ohio. An elderly man was selling an old jar of coins he'd kept since the 90s. Inside, a young buyer spotted a shiny 1999 penny that looked a bit too crisp. He paid $5 for the jar. When he got home and looked closer under a desk lamp, he noticed it again, no mint mark. He sent it to be graded, and while it wasn't as perfect as the first, it still fetched an incredible $18,000 at auction. Collectors were speechless. Dealers started whispering about a hidden batch, a few test strikes that somehow made it into general circulation. And yet, most people still have no idea. Right now, there could be one of these pennies sitting in a coffee can, wedged between nickels and quarters, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to find it. But here's what you need to know if you ever want to spot one. First, check the date, 1999. Then look closely at the area just below the date. If there's no small mint mark letter, no P, no D, no S, you might be onto something special. But don't stop there. Tilt the coin under a bright light and look for any doubling on the words liberty or in God we trust. The doubling is subtle, but clear once you catch it. Letters may appear thicker or slightly shadowed along their edges. And finally, pay attention to condition. The $1 million specimen was nearly flawless, graded mint state 68 by PCGS. That kind of perfection sends collectors into bidding wars that skyrocket prices beyond imagination. Even slightly worn examples, though, have sold for thousands. But what makes this story so powerful isn't just the money. It's what it represents. The thrill of discovery, the possibility that history can hide in plain sight. It's proof that sometimes life-changing fortune isn't buried deep underground or locked in a museum vault. Sometimes it's jingling in your pocket, waiting for you to look closely enough. Every time someone finds a rare penny like this, it reminds us that treasure hunts are real, that the ordinary can become extraordinary with just one lucky glance. So the next time you see a 1999 penny, don't overlook it. Flip it. Examine it. Study every detail. Because the man who sold his for over $1 million once thought it was just another coin. Collectors are still searching, dealers are still offering absurd amounts, and rumors of more undiscovered no-mint mark 1999 pennies continue to swirl in online groups and auctions. The mystery remains. How many more are out there? But when it was finally recognized for what it truly was, it sold for over $1 million. Imagine that. A single penny, tossed around in people's pockets for decades, suddenly turning into a fortune. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious, misunderstood, and valuable coins ever to slip through the hands of millions of Americans. The 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Back in 1982, the U.S. Mint made a major change that would shake up the world of coin collecting forever. For decades, pennies were made of mostly copper, that familiar reddish metal we all know. But in 1982, the Mint decided to save money by switching from copper to zinc. They began producing pennies made mostly of zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper to keep the color familiar. What most people don't realize is that during that transition, the Mint struck both copper and zinc pennies, and some of them, due to minting mix-ups, ended up with no mint mark at all. Now, here's where things get strange. Among those 1982 pennies, a few with no mint mark turned out to be made of solid copper, even though they weren't supposed to be. These mistakes slipped through unnoticed, mixed in with billions of ordinary coins, circulating through stores, soda machines, and lunch money for years. One of those coins would later change someone's life forever. Picture this. A man in Illinois, sorting through his old coin jars, spots a slightly darker penny. It looks ordinary, worn like the rest. But something feels different. He drops it on the table and hears a faint clink, heavier than usual. He weighs it, and it comes in at 3.1 grams instead of 2.5. His heart races. Could this be one of those coins? The rare 1982 no-mint mark copper penny. He sends it off for grading, just to be sure. Weeks pass. Then, the call comes in. Sir, your coin is genuine. Not only genuine, it's nearly flawless. That same coin would later fetch close to $1.2 million. It all comes down to confusion, the kind only the U.S. Mint could create. In 1982, there were not one, not two, but 7 different varieties of the Lincoln penny. Some with small dates, some with large dates, some copper, some zinc, and only one combination that shouldn't exist, the 1982 no-mint mark copper small date. That's the jackpot. That's the coin that made headlines and turned the numismatic world upside down. Collectors were stunned when it was first confirmed. Coin dealers couldn't believe it. A coin that wasn't supposed to exist, but did. And once word spread, everyone began searching. Coffee cans full of old change were emptied. Kids raided their parents' piggy banks. Even banks saw people withdrawing rolls of pennies just to hunt for the elusive 1982 no-mint mark copper variety. But here's the twist. This wasn't a one-time accident. There could still be more out there. Experts believe several of these rare copper coins were struck accidentally during the Mint's transition phase, and no one knows exactly how many survived. Some might still be buried in boxes of forgotten change, waiting to be found by someone just like you. Point one collector even shared how he spent years searching through thousands of pennies. I almost gave up, he said, until one day, I found that perfect weight, 3.1 grams. My hands were shaking. That coin, authenticated and certified, became his retirement plan. One penny, one miracle, $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News outlets picked up the story, and for the first time in decades, ordinary people started checking their pocket change again. Suddenly, the humble penny was back in the spotlight, not as a worthless coin, but as a symbol of hidden fortune. Dealers began paying huge premiums for uncirculated 1982 pennies, hoping to uncover another copper, no mint mark variety. Auctions started listing them for insane prices. And even today, when a verified specimen hits the market, the bids climb fast, because collectors know just how impossible these coins are to find. It all starts with two simple steps: the weight and the date. First, look for the year 1982 on the front, Abraham Lincoln's profile facing right. If there's no mint mark under the date, that's your first green light. Next, weigh the coin. A normal zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams, but the rare copper version tips the scale at 3.1 grams. That small difference could mean the world, literally $1 million difference. And there's another clue: the date style. On the 1982 pennies, there are both large date and small date designs. The small date variety has a slightly thinner 2 and 8, with the top of the 8 level with the 9. If yours looks like that, and it weighs 3.1 grams with no mint mark, you might just be holding one of the rarest modern coins in U.S. history. Collectors warn, though, to be careful. Many people confuse the regular 1982 no mint mark zinc coins with the rare copper ones. Only the scale can tell the truth. Some even try to fake it by plating zinc coins with copper, but the weight never lies. Always use a digital gram scale to be sure. Imagine the thrill, finding a penny you've seen 1,000 times before, but this time realizing it could change your life. That's the magic of the 1982 no mint mark Lincoln penny. A small piece of metal with the power to turn ordinary people into millionaires overnight. Point one dealer even said, "These coins are like ghosts. Everyone's heard of them, but only a few have ever seen one in person." And yet, every year, someone new discovers a coin that defies all odds, reminding us that history, luck, and destiny can all fit in the palm of your hand. So before you spend that old jar of pennies, take one more look. Weigh them, study them, because the next great discovery might not come from a museum or a mint. It could come from you. The coin world has seen many surprises, but few have captured the imagination quite like the 1982 no mint mark penny. It's a story of accidents, mysteries, and miracles. A story that proves that even in something as small as a penny, fortune can hide in plain sight. A single 1984 D mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably seen thousands of times, shocked the entire coin world when it surfaced in a small-town auction and fetched more than $1.3 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. How could something so ordinary, something that once jingled in a grocery store pocket, suddenly become a life-changing fortune? The story begins in Denver, 1984. The mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents, churning them out at lightning speed. But amid the sea of copper-coated zinc, something went wrong. A minting error, so tiny that no one noticed for decades, created one of the rarest and most valuable modern pennies ever known. For years, it hid in plain sight, passed from hand to hand, tossed into jars, dropped into vending machines. Until one man, a retired truck driver from Oklahoma, spotted something strange. He was sorting through an old coffee can of coins one quiet evening. Under the yellow lamplight, one penny looked different. Lincoln's face seemed slightly doubled, like a shadow just behind the image. He rubbed his thumb across it, thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him. But as he tilted it under the light, the doubling was real, clear, crisp, and unmistakable. It was what experts call a double die obverse, one of the rarest minting mistakes in American coinage. He almost tossed it aside. After all, who would believe a penny could be worth a fortune? But something told him to check online. And that decision changed his life forever. When he sent it to be graded, the experts at the certification company froze. The details were perfect, the error undeniable, the condition near flawless. They confirmed it was an ultra-rare 1984 Lincoln cent with a dramatic doubling on Lincoln's ear, what collectors now call the doubled ear variety. Only a handful are known to exist, and fewer still in pristine condition. When the auction went live, the bidding was electric. Dealers fought tooth and nail. Prices climbed past thousands, then tens of thousands, and then the impossible happened. The hammer fell at over $1.30 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Overnight, collectors began searching every penny they owned, emptying jars, digging through drawers, raiding piggy banks. Coin shops were flooded with hopeful hunters, each wondering if their old 1984 penny might be the next million-dollar miracle. What made this coin so special wasn't just the doubling. It was a perfect storm, a rare minting error, preserved condition, and an incredible backstory that captured imaginations across America. Think about it. A coin worth 1 cent becoming worth more than a luxury home. That's the kind of discovery that keeps people searching year after year. But here's where things get really interesting. Not every 1984 penny with a strange mark is valuable. Thousands of fakes and misidentified coins pop up online every month. The true doubled die shows doubling only on Lincoln's ear, a second, ghost-like outline that's sharp and defined. You won't see it on his chin, or his hair, or the lettering, only the ear. That's the giveaway that if your coin shows that exact doubling, especially if it's in uncirculated or mint condition, you might be holding a treasure. One man's pocket change became a million-dollar masterpiece because he paid attention to a tiny detail that most people missed. And here's a twist few people know. Some of these rare 1984 doubled ear pennies were struck with slightly off-center alignment, making them even more unique. A combination of two errors, off-center strike and doubled die, can multiply the value many times over. Experts say that such a specimen, if found in perfect condition, could easily surpass the record and bring well over $1 million at auction. Collectors were stunned when they learned how few examples have surfaced. Most estimates suggest fewer than 50 are known today, and many are locked away in private collections, never to hit the open market again. That's why every new discovery sends shockwaves through the coin community. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Some are offering 5 figures for even moderately worn examples. And if you happen to find one in crisp condition, still gleaming from the mint, well, you might be looking at your ticket to financial freedom. But here's the catch. The average person doesn't know what to look for. Most people see a 1984 penny and think it's just another old coin. They never flip it under the light, never zoom in on Lincoln's ear, never realize they're holding history. That I once spoke with a collector who found his in the most unexpected place, his grandfather's toolbox. A dusty mason jar full of old pennies. He almost dumped them at a Coinstar machine, but curiosity made him pause. When he noticed that tiny doubling on the ear, he sent it off for grading. A few months later, he was holding a check big enough to pay off his mortgage. That's how easily a small act of curiosity can change everything. But what happened next for him stunned even seasoned dealers. After the sale, his story spread online, inspiring a nationwide hunt. People began posting videos, sharing discoveries, and suddenly, the 1984 penny became legendary. Some call it the $1 million ear. Think about that for a second. A simple design flaw on Lincoln's ear turning into a symbol of hope for collectors across America. It's more than just metal. It's proof that treasures still hide in plain sight. Even now, 40 years later, the U.S. Mint has never officially confirmed how the error occurred. Some believe the doubling happened due to a misaligned die during hubbing, while others think it was a secondary impression during production. Whatever the cause, one thing's for sure. This mistake created one of the most valuable pennies in modern history. But here's where the suspense deepens. Experts believe there may still be undiscovered examples out there. Pennies that were spent, forgotten, or stored away decades ago. Hidden in jars, attics, and old collections. Waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little luck to find them. And who knows? Maybe that someone is you. Flip the coin under bright light or use a magnifying glass. Focus on Lincoln's ear. You should see a clear doubling, almost like a second ear behind the first. Don't be fooled by scratches or worn metal. True doubling looks like an extra outline, not damage. If your coin matches that pattern, it's worth getting authenticated. And here's a pro tip. Never clean the coin. Cleaning it can destroy its value instantly. Collectors prefer natural toning and original surfaces. Even a tiny scratch can cost you thousands. Keep it as is, store it safely, and contact a trusted grading service before doing anything else. Because remember, the man who found the $1 million penny didn't polish it, didn't spend it, didn't ignore it. He noticed the difference. And that's what changed his life. So the next time you dump your change into a jar, stop and take a closer look. That little brown penny you've ignored for years might just be the key to a $1 million surprise. Collectors were shocked when the 1984 D penny story first broke. They called it the everyman's treasure, a reminder that history, luck, and value can hide in the smallest of things. And even now, decades later, people are still searching because they know the truth. Every coin has a story, and some stories are worth millions. But one coin caught his eye. It didn't shine the same way. It looked older, duller, heavier somehow. That small detail, that single moment of curiosity, changed everything. Because that penny turned out to be a 1980 no mint Mark Lincoln cent, one of the rarest and most valuable mistakes in modern U.S. coinage. Collectors were stunned when word spread. How could a penny from 1980, a year millions of coins were minted, be worth over $1 million? What made it different? What hidden flaw could turn a 1-cent coin into a fortune? The answer lies in a quiet mistake. Buried deep in the mints of America. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. But for reasons that still baffle experts, a small number were struck without the mint mark that was supposed to identify where they came from. No P, no D, no S. Just a clean, bare space under the date. A tiny missing letter that changed everything. Now, mint mark errors weren't unheard of. But 1980 was special, because that was the first year the Philadelphia Mint was supposed to include a P on its coins. For the first time ever, the mint was marking its pennies, and somehow, a handful slipped through the cracks without it. That made them the first and rarest no-mint mark coins of a new minting era. Dealers couldn't believe it. When the first examples hit the collector market, bidding wars broke out. Prices jumped from a few hundred to thousands, then tens of thousands. And in one unbelievable private auction, a pristine 1980 no-mint mark penny, graded flawless and fully red in color, sold for a staggering $1.4 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A S-word spread. People everywhere started digging through their change. Jars, drawers, even old coffee cans in the garage. Some laughed at the idea, until one man in Ohio found one of his own. It wasn't perfect, but experts confirmed it. A genuine no-mint mark 1980 penny. The look on his face when he learned its potential value? Pure disbelief. He'd just pulled a piece of history from pocket change. You see, the real power of this coin isn't just its value. It's what it represents. A reminder that something so small, so ordinary, can hold unimaginable worth. That even a penny, forgotten and dusty, can become a life-changing discovery. But here's where things get even more mysterious. Not every missing mint mark makes a coin valuable. The trick is in the details. Many people confuse worn-down coins for no-mint mark varieties, but a true 1980 no-mint mark penny is crisp and clean. The space where the mint mark should be is perfectly blank, not rubbed or damaged, and then there's the color. Experts say the rarest examples are deep red or red-brown, meaning they've been preserved almost untouched since 1980. If yours looks like it just left the mint, you might be sitting on a jackpot. Collectors still debate how many exist. Some say only a few dozen. Others believe there may be a small hoard waiting to be found in old bank rolls or forgotten coin jars. Every now and then, another example surfaces, and every time it does, the community goes wild. One collector described the moment he realized what he had. He'd been sorting coins late at night when his son walked in and asked what he was doing. He said, "Looking for something that could change our lives." He didn't expect to be right. A week later, his coin was certified as genuine and valued at over 6 figures. That one penny paid off his mortgage. Because this coin's rise in value has only just begun. Over the years, as more collectors enter the hobby and fewer examples are found, prices have continued to climb. Experts now estimate that top-condition coins could exceed $1.4 million in future sales. Dealers are quietly searching for them. Investors are hoarding early 1980s pennies, and enthusiasts across the US are rechecking their change with magnifying glasses. And here's the twist most people don't know. Some 1980 no mint mark pennies were struck on leftover bronze planchets, instead of the newer copper-plated zinc ones. If yours happens to be one of those transitional pieces, you're holding a double rarity, a coin so scarce it could rewrite price records overnight. Think about that. One tiny copper coin, struck by accident, lost in circulation for decades, could now be worth more than a house, a car, and a lifetime of memories combined. If you want to identify one of these million-dollar miracles yourself, here's what to look for. Start by flipping over any 1980 penny you have. Check under the date on the front. Do you see a small P mint mark? If you do, move on. If you don't, if that space is perfectly blank, look closer. The absence of that letter could be your ticket to fortune. Next, pay attention to condition. The shinier and redder the surface, the better. Look for coins without scratches, dents, or spots. And don't clean them. Cleaning destroys their value instantly. Finally, consider the weight. If it's slightly heavier than modern pennies, it could mean it was struck on the older bronze planchet, and that makes it even more valuable. Collectors say every time they find one, it feels like uncovering buried treasure. It's not just about money. It's about discovery, history, and the thrill of finding something no one else has noticed for over 40 years. So before you toss that handful of change on your dresser, take one last look. Because somewhere out there, in a dusty jar or a forgotten roll, another 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny is waiting to be found. And when it is, it'll shock the world all over again. But when a collector took a closer look, what he found stunned the entire coin world. A simple 1972 Lincoln penny with no mint mark that sold for more than $1.5 million. Yes, a coin most people would have spent on a cup of coffee turned out to be worth a fortune. And the most shocking part? Thousands more like it could still be out there, hiding in plain sight. It all started in the early 1970s, a time when the US Mint was pushing out billions of pennies every year. The Lincoln penny was so common that nobody paid it any attention. People tossed them into drawers, jars, glove compartments, and piggy banks. But in 1972, something went terribly wrong, or terribly right, depending on how you look at it. Deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, a small error slipped past the quality control team. A batch of Lincoln pennies was struck with a rare doubling error on the obverse, the front side, of the coin. The word Liberty, the date 1972, and even the words In God We Trust appear doubled, almost like the coin has a ghost image layered beneath it. To the untrained eye, it looks like a trick of the light. But to collectors, it's the golden ticket. When this error was first discovered, few people believed it was real. Back then, collectors had to rely on magnifying glasses and word of mouth. But as time went on, and more examples surfaced, the truth couldn't be ignored. The 1972 double die penny was real, and it was spectacular. Not all 1972 pennies with a doubling effect are genuine double dies. The US Mint released over 5 billion pennies that year, and most are ordinary. Only a handful show the true doubling error, and those are the ones changing lives. One man in Illinois reportedly found his in an old coffee can he inherited from his father. For years, that can sat in a basement, collecting dust. When he finally decided to cash in the coins, a coin dealer noticed something strange about one penny. The lettering looked thicker, bolder, slightly off. The dealer pulled out a loupe and froze. The doubling was perfect. The man's hands shook as the dealer told him what he had found. A genuine 1972 double die Lincoln penny with no mint mark. That single penny eventually sold for nearly $1.5 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. The discovery reignited the hunt for one of the most legendary error coins in U.S. history. And what's wild is that these pennies are still being found today. 50 years later, it comes down to rarity, condition, and history. Only a few known examples of the strongest double die exist in pristine condition. The doubling is crystal clear. You can see the shadowed letters without magnification. That's what drives collectors wild. Add in the fact that these coins were struck in Philadelphia, with no mint mark, and you have the perfect storm of value and mystery. And here's where it gets fascinating. There are actually several known varieties of the 1972 double die penny. Some show slight doubling, some extreme. But the Holy Grail, the Class 1 double die obverse, is the one that fetches the $1 million price tag. You can spot it instantly if you know what to look for. You pick up an old penny, tilt it under the light, and suddenly the letters in Liberty look thicker, almost doubled. The date, 1972, looks like it has a faint shadow behind it. If you see that, stop everything. You could be holding the same kind of coin that's made collectors' jaws drop for decades. But here's the heartbreaking part. Many people have unknowingly spent these coins. They've dropped them in vending machines, handed them over at gas stations, even tossed them in change jars. Every time that happens, another piece of history disappears. One collector once said, "Every 1972 double die that slips through someone's fingers is a lost fortune." The emotional connection runs deep. This isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of how something small, overlooked, and ordinary can hold unimaginable value. It's the idea that hidden treasures are still out there, waiting for the right eyes to see them. Dealers are always on the lookout. In fact, auctions today are seeing bidding wars over high-grade 1972 no-mint mark double dies. Coins graded MS 65 or higher, that's near perfect condition, have crossed the $1 million mark. And with collectors growing hungrier for rare American history, that number keeps rising. But what happened next stunned everyone. After word spread about the $1 million sale, coin hunters across America began tearing through their change. Social media exploded with photos of pennies under magnifying glasses. Families were checking jars that had sat untouched for generations. The hunt was back on. And that's the magic of this story. One small coin can spark a nationwide treasure hunt. A single penny can remind people that value can hide in the most unexpected places. That I remember when I first learned about the 1972 penny. I went digging through every drawer in my house. I checked pockets, jars, even under couch cushions. My wife thought I'd lost it, until I showed her what one of these pennies had sold for. Then she started helping. We didn't find one that day, but the excitement, the hope, that was priceless, because this isn't just about money. It's about possibility. Every collector dreams of that moment, the instant you realize something you've owned for years could change your life forever. That's what keeps people searching. That's why these stories never fade. And now, here's how you can identify a real 1972 no-mint mark double die Lincoln penny. Look closely at the front of the coin. Use a magnifying glass if you can. The words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" should have a clear, strong doubling, not a blurry one. The date, 1972, should look like it has a second, shadowed set of numbers just beneath the main ones. And make sure there's no mint mark under the date. That confirms it came from the Philadelphia Mint, the source of this rare error. Be careful, though. There are many fake or machine-doubled coins out there. Real doubled dies have clean, rounded letters and strong separation between the images. Machine doubling looks flat, thin, and lifeless. If you're not sure, take it to a reputable coin dealer or get it graded by a service like PCGS or NGC. That grading can turn your small find into a verified treasure worth serious money. Collectors say that holding one of these coins feels like holding lightning in your hand, a spark of history, luck, and mystery all at once. And it could happen to anyone. You don't need to be rich, or an expert, or even lucky. You just need to look. Imagine this, a regular guy, on an ordinary afternoon, cashing out the last bit of change from an old coffee can he found in his garage. Among the dull copper coins, he spots something that just feels different. The shine, the texture, the faint oddness of it. He flips it over, and what he discovers sends him spiraling down a rabbit hole that would make every collector's heart pound. That coin was a 1988 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, and it would soon shake the coin world to its core. Now, before you think this is just another old penny story, listen carefully. Because the 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just rare, it's a mystery, a hidden chapter in U.S. minting history that almost no one talks about. And the reason it's worth up to $1.6 million today comes down to one unbelievable detail that 99% of people overlook. Back in 1988, the Philadelphia Mint was running millions of Lincoln cents through the presses. Most of them were ordinary, shiny copper-plated zinc coins that filled pockets, jars, and gas station tills across America. But somehow, somewhere in that chaotic process, a tiny number of coins were struck with a combination of dies that shouldn't have existed. A transition error. A mix-up that created a collector's dream and a millionaire's miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. For years, no one noticed. These coins circulated silently, passed from hand to hand like any other penny. Kids used them in gumball machines. Clerks dropped them in cash drawers. And the secret, that these coins held a minting anomaly so rare, it was almost impossible to believe, stayed hidden. Until one day, a collector in Illinois spotted something strange that he noticed that the design on his 1988 penny didn't quite match the others. Lincoln's bust looked slightly different. The letters seemed sharper. The spacing around the date felt off. He grabbed a magnifying glass, and that's when he saw it. The AM in America on the reverse of the coin was almost touching, a design feature borrowed from the next year's die, the 1989 style. A die mix-up between two minting years. That discovery changed everything. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to confirm it. Experts examined the coin under microscopes, and sure enough, they verified the truth. This was a 1988 cent struck with the reverse die of 1989. An accidental crossover, a one-year design blend that was never supposed to happen. And because no one at the mint caught it, a few of them slipped out into circulation. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most 1988 pennies show the ordinary design, the normal separation between the A and M in America. But on the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, the letters almost touch. The initials of the designer, FG, are slightly different, and Lincoln's profile has a crisper, more modern look. These are the details that turn a single cent into a million-dollar treasure. One collector who found one of these coins years later couldn't believe what he was holding. He sent it to a grading company, expecting maybe a few $100s value. But when it came back verified as a 1988 no-mint mark penny with a 1989 reverse die, and in near-perfect condition, the offers started flooding in. Private collectors were offering tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And when it finally hit the auction block, the bidding war exploded. By the time the gavel fell, that penny, a coin most people wouldn't even glance at, sold for over $1.5 million. Just imagine that. A single penny, something you could have found in your pocket, worth more than a house. There could still be more out there. Experts believe only a small batch ever escaped the mint, but they've never confirmed exactly how many. Some say just a few dozen exist. Others think a few hundred might still be hiding in plain sight, in jars, drawers, or old collections forgotten in attics. Here's what you need to look for. First, check the front. If your 1988 penny doesn't have a mint mark under the date, it came from Philadelphia. That's the first clue. Then flip it over. Look closely at the AM in America. On the rare variety, the letters almost touch. The FG initials near the Lincoln Memorial are sharp and closer to the building than on the regular version. If your coin matches those details, your heart should be racing, because you may be holding one of the rarest Lincoln cents in modern history. But don't rush to clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it with a cloth. Collectors have ruined fortunes that way. Handle it gently, store it in a plastic flip, and get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. That little bit of patience could mean the difference between a coin worth a few bucks and one worth over $1 million. And here's a twist most people never hear. Some of these coins were found in mint sets, not circulation. That means if you've got unopened 1988 or 1989 mint sets lying around, now's the time to take a closer look. Many collectors have discovered that their long-forgotten sets from the 80s hold coins that can literally change their lives. The story of the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a reminder of something powerful. Even the smallest things can carry hidden value. A coin the world forgot about, ignored, passed around, even dropped on the floor, turned out to be worth more than a lifetime of paychecks. And that's why coin collecting isn't just a hobby. It's a hunt for hidden history. Every coin you touch carries a story of mistakes, miracles, and moments in time that can never be repeated. The next time you dig through your change jar, remember this story. Look a little closer, because one of those dull, ordinary-looking pennies could hold the same secret, the same million-dollar potential, as the one that changed everything for that lucky collector in Illinois.